Well, guys, it's been a while, but yeah, crazy couple of weeks. Anyway, this week's episode of the podcast is all about packing your gear just right for your next safari adventure. So let's get into it. How's it, guys? And oh man, what a couple of weeks, crazy couple of weeks. So for those of you that don't know and don't follow me on any of the socials, my laptop got stolen. So a lot of the content that the PH Journals team produces and we collaborate and all that sort of stuff, we get it all together. We've got a whole bunch of different hard drives and we put it onto one central system. Thank goodness for technology, because without that cloud device or the drives that we have that is cloud based, I would have lost everything. But for some reason, and I say this to everyone, what happened on the day is that when I got into the office that morning, Saturday morning, something for the life of me just said, Dylan, just make sure you've backed up everything. We've recorded the first episode of the podcast for 2026. Just make sure that we take the rest of the stuff that's outstanding, we put it on the drive so that it doesn't get lost. And if come hell or high water, something happens. And Struce Bob, 2 hours later, something happens. So yeah, we're very, very fortunate that we managed to recover everything that we had done. So 6 years of hard graft hasn't gone a waste, which I'm so forever grateful for the great men that have got us into these crazy ecosystems with technology. But for the long-term thing, or for the long-term preservation of some great quality content, it's a blessing in disguise. So yeah, enough about that. The problem solved, all sorted. All systems go. So guys, show season's upon us. Of course, we're going to keep as much as we possibly can within the theme of show season, because I'm just assuming when I say this, but I'm sure everyone's flying around to the various different SHOT shows. There was the sheep show going on. I know there's the Great American Outdoor coming up now. Houston was going on. It's a buzz. This time of the year, I'm trying absolutely losers that I'm not over there. It's an absolutely incredible time because you see guys with safari bags in the airports and the buses and all that sort of stuff. So it's really, really just a very cool time, especially for us South Africans. We really enjoy this time of the year. It's great marketing. We meet a whole bunch of new people, some great people, and it just gives us to interact with individuals that are like-minded within the industry. So the reason why I set these podcasts out the way I have, because I'm just assuming that a lot of the guys that are planning to go on their first or their 100th safari and are needing that little bit of motivation or a little bit of tips and tricks that they might have missed on their 99 safaris prior, and they want to just better their preparation going forward. So this is why we've kept it with the theme, kept it with the time of year. I love this time of year. So yeah, it's really, really exciting for me to talk about this sort of stuff. And today's episode is another special one. It's all about your safari gear. Why is this important? Well, of course, coming out to Africa, I've been very, very fortunate to hunt in the United States, in the UK, Spain, and various different European countries. So I know exactly what goes on behind the scenes as far as packing the right gear. Because often, and when I say often, 1 out of every 2 clients that come out to South Africa have overpacked. And it's not just... I don't want to sound sexist when I say this, but it's not just the female hunters. It's the men too. Guys overpack intensely. And it hinders... For the better part of a safari, it could slow you down in various different ways. But we'll get into that as we go along in this episode. So I've been very fortunate. I've been a professional hunter now, what did I say? It was, listen, I think this is like my 16th year now, and I outfitted for 4. So I see the mistakes people make. I see the overpacking, the unnecessary stuff that people bring. So it's nice to have a reference to it, and I say, okay, well, you guys have made the mistakes. Now it's time for us to highlight what those mistakes were, so that the rest of the individuals that want to come out and experience this beautiful country of ours don't make the same ones. So, the biggest tip out there: gear is so important that it could either make or break your safari. Forgotten gear, not the right stuff. We've seen it happen. It does make a difference. You think it doesn't, but it does. So, disclaimer alert. What I'm about to say, just for a disclaimer, none of the products that I mentioned here tonight I am sponsored by. I might have been given a couple of products along the way, but not anything mentioned here tonight. This is not a paid sponsorship episode or anything like that. So this is generally just tried and tested out in the field and what I've received best results from. So let's start everything off right back at the basics. Packing your gear bag. Well, we've got to start with the gear bag itself. Guys, traveling aboard has got to be one of the most daunting things ever, especially when you have certain weight restrictions and all that sort of stuff. Coming out to South Africa, you don't need to max out on luggage. You really don't. If you're planning to bring a couple of gifts back for friends, family, kids, and all that sort of stuff, then yeah, sure. Bring your 2 suitcases that are necessary, but make sure inside your suitcases you have a nice waterproof or watertight canvas or PVC type material duffel bag. Now the reason for that is a lot of the time when you arrive in camp, there might be certain species that you'll be going after, and you would need to travel out of camp for a night or 2. And it's always nice to have that waterproof or water sealed tight bag, or a bag that can take a little bit of punishment. So for us as a professional hunter, we know that we can take that bag of your guys' and just chuck it on the back of the pickup, and we don't have to really worry about it getting wet or getting damaged by salt or any of the blood leaking on it if there's carcass or if there's skinned animals in the back or whatever the case may be. It needs to be a bag that can take a little bit of abuse. So that's your first one. I'm not going to dwindle too much on that. It is very, very important. Somebody asked, one of the questions that I get asked quite a bit, do we need backpacks with hydration kits and all that sort of stuff in? It is highly advisable. I do advise. I've started drinking MTN Ops on majority of my hunts now, and I can't believe the difference that it's made, especially like your hydration side of things. Now, being a professional hunter, I realized very, very quickly, we've always got cooler boxes on the back of our trucks, and the situations out in the bush afford us the opportunity to always come back to the truck and drink water or whatever the case may be. But I realized that my water intake, for however long I've been missing it out, hasn't been quite up to standard. Since I've been on the MTN Ops hydration system, or hydration sachets, it's been an absolute game changer, and I feel great. My energy levels last a hell of a lot longer, and I know I'm just saying, you might think I'm just saying this, but really, guys, it makes a massive, massive, massive difference. One of the worst things I was doing, and tips, I'm going to get into a podcast with tips and tricks for professional hunters going forward, but one of the worst things I was doing is I was packing a lot of fizzy drinks, and that is not good, especially when you're out in the field. I felt it made me a little bit sluggish, and you want to be on your peak performance, especially when those opportunities arise. So yes, if you do have make sure that your backpack that you take on as a carry-on luggage is the same backpack you can utilize out in the field. And then South Africa, we do have hydration sachets, but if you do have a preferable one in the United States, bring that along. And here's the reason why. Part of my training for Ironman and all that sort of stuff, I realized that the carbohydrate intake from hydration drinks can really upset your stomach. So the last thing you want to do is come out here and purchase a whole bunch of hydration sachets, and they really turn your stomach upside down. It could absolutely ruin your safari. So consider bringing your own hydration. If you have been taking it for a while, that side, bring it out with it. Come chuck it in your backpack. It's a very light essential item to bring along with, and bring it along and just pop it in your backpack. Cool. Okay, get into the good stuff. So first on the list, guys, please remember that this list will be available in a downloadable format. I need to figure out how, but I'll put a little bit of work in and I'll make that available, whether it be on any of my social media platforms or on my website. So be sure to go and check that out. So here's my recommendations so the following are all my recommendations. I am going to mention a couple of names, and you guys can make your decision from there on, but I think the basic gist of it is here. Let's talk about optics. Of course, optics have to be one of your most crucial and important items in your bag. Okay. Bear in mind that any binoculars would always do the trick. 10x42s or the bigger ones, essentially, I find they work really, really well for us professional hunters. But if you're not a guy that enjoys straining eyes or glassing for long periods of time, then don't worry about that. So 10x42s always does the trick. I have learned something over the past couple of years. If you don't have rangefinder binoculars, don't guess. Trust your professional hunter. He's hunted this terrain. I do find that often when clients come out and they don't have rangefinders, they do tend to perceive the distance as being a little bit further than what it is. And it's not the case. I did it when I was in Maryland, when we were hunting whitetail and seeker deer in Maryland. I did it as well. I got into the tree stand and I was like, holy crap, this is not 20 yards or 40 yards, whatever it was. I was like, this is much, much further. And popped up my rangefinder binoculars, checked it out. I was like, oh, well, yeah, it's 40 yards. So your perception from terrain that you're not always equipped or always used to, I definitely do think that it could perceive things a little bit further than what they really are. So remember, if you don't have a rangefinder in your binoculars, it is advisable. If you especially, of course, it's a no-brainer. If you bow hunting, bring your rangefinder along. If you are bringing a rifle, please make sure that your string, you bring 2 straps. I've seen it in the past. It's happened numerous amounts of times that the straps actually break. Now, the cool thing about straps and stuff is that no matter, any small town would have a basic local convenience store where you could go run in quickly and get it. But what I have seen happen on an occasion, the threads going into the rifle are completely different to the ones that that you guys supply. And I think I want to say it's because of the Imperial system, but I don't think that's quite right. But somewhere along the line, I remember having a client have a rifle and we couldn't get the right thread for it, and therefore we had to make some weird sort of plan. So if you are bringing out a rifle, just make sure you got an extra sling with you. Of course, belt storage pouches I'm a big fan of. I've got one right here. This is my PH Journals one. This is a pretty cool one. It can hold up to 7 rounds. I love this thing. Take it with me on all my hunts, even if I'm not pulling the trigger. I think that's highly advisable. You can never. It's a cuck one to be out in the field and you run out of ammunition. And then something I highly recommend. So something I've recently started doing. It's actually where the name PH Journals came from. I'm a big journaler. I love journaling. I found it helped me get out of my mental health debacle when I went into a little bit of depression, journaling was a real safe space for me. So bring out a notebook, make a couple of notes during the night. There was a guy that he wasn't my client personally, but I hunted with him. His name was Matt, and he journaled every single night. And I thought it was one of the coolest things under the sun. Journaling just puts a lot of your safari into perspective, not for anyone else, but for yourself. And to be able to reflect back on that, I think it's something very, very powerful and unique in any safari adventure. And I think back into the days, and I'm going back into like the 1800s and all that sort of stuff, when the first hunters arrived here to hunt these magnificent animals, journaling was their only way. It was their form of Instagram. And what an effective way it really was. Beautiful. There's some beautiful stories that have come from that. Capstick highlights that in an immaculate way. So that's just one little side note there as far as under the optics and critical hunting gear, I guess I'll put it under that sort of segment, is entailed. So just to highlight everything again, guys, binoculars, 10x42s will do. If you want to bring spotting scopes and all that sort of stuff, it's really not necessary, but if you do want to, by all means, bring them out. Personal preference takes it above all. I have had guys that have come out and had equally just as a great time to the guys that really like glassing and bring out their own spotting scopes and stuff. So keep that in mind. Your rifle slings, when I say guys overpack, bringing 2 rifle slings might seem a little bit excessive, but I promise you it really does make a difference. Your ammo storage pouch for your belt, or even in your backpack. But don't bring those big boxes, just a nice little sleek leather one or a fabric one, whichever one's preferable, which suits you more. Sorry, I'm mumbling up my words here. Yeah, and then of course your journaling system. Okay, to the big one. And this is where a lot of people, and I say people, male, female, whoever the case, kids, it's clothing. So, guys, majority of the properties you're going to hunt on is going to have a laundry facility. And part of that laundry facility, I'm yet to see the lodge staff push out laundry longer than 2 days. So, worst case scenario, pack for 2 to 3 days of hunting. That's it. You don't need to pack any more than that. So, which means 2 to 3 hunting shirts, 2 to 3 pairs of pants, 1 warm layer, base layer, something like a kuficha base layer, a windbreaker or a nice warm jacket, 3 pairs, yeah, we mentioned that, 3 pairs of pants. You could, we'll chat about that now. A hat, a good safari hat, like a PH Journals. Yes, I'm selling myself here. No, but a good safari hat. Those rim hats are really, really nice. I started hunting in a rim hat quite a while ago. With the bow hunting, it makes things a little bit difficult for me, so I really enjoy a nice peak. But a rim hat really gets your neck out and your ears out of the sun. And then something I've seen become a little bit more often, if you do have a fair skin and you do want to stay out of the sun and keep yourself active, buff. A buff goes, it does wonders for keeping your skin safe. Okay. I want to address something here quickly. Guys often ask, can they bring shorts to hunting? Of course you can. 100%. But, and this is a very big but, I would highly recommend that you guys understand what that entails. Now, wearing shorts to South Africa is not the problem. It's the things that can hurt you while you're hunting that is the problem. So, for instance, snakes, steegras, water, a load of water, the early morning dew, I'm trying to think what else. Seeds, big one. Ticks. What else is there? That's pretty much about it. So, but guys, for the most part, the big one is ticks. So for me, there's a spray we use. It's a base spray. It's a paraffin based spray that comes in small little bottles. You can pick it up at any hardware store. I think in the States it's called WD-40. We've got it here as Q20 or I forget the name. Anyway, any sort of paraffin lubricant that is used in motor vehicle accessory parts or accessory stores or anything like that. And your pHs, I generally keep a bottle with me at any given time. The paraffin repels the ticks. It's a great way of repelling the ticks, and it's not such an intense smell out in the bush. It gets absorbed within the fauna and flora of our South Africa bushveld. I learned this from an old toppie that grew up on. Old toppie is an older gentleman. He grew up in the Transkei, and he was part of the Transkei traders, and he told us about it. So as kids, we grew up with paraffin on our ankles and around our knees and stuff like that, just to repel the ticks when we were playing out in the Transkei along the coastal areas there. So this was great, and I bought. We were hunting hippo in the Fish River, and we came back after day one, and we were absolutely riddled from head to toe with ticks. Head to toe, like those small little red pepper ticks. The last thing you want on any safari is for your client to get tick bite fever. So obviously, depending where you're hunting, yes, in the Queenstown district, if we have some good frosty mornings, first thing in the winter, we hardly get any ticks. But move more down towards the coastal areas, as where Fort Beaufort, that sort of area, the ticks hibernate there. So, sorry, not hibernate, but they are rife there. They're all over the show. And we were hunting hippo down in the Fish River, and I remember I had a bottle of this to lubricate some of the parts, like a door hinge or something in my bakkie. And I remember we had it, so the next day before we went out, we had pairs of long pants on. We had Sitka long pants on, and I sprayed it down with paraffin spray, and not a single tick. Not one tick was there. Came home, did a little bit of research. The fauna and flora in South Africa actually, it's the pollen, I think it is, that subdues the scent of the paraffin, which makes it quite a great tick repellent out there. So just keep that in mind. So I might have waffled off on that point for a little bit longer than what I should have, but it's a great point to have in the back of your mind coming out here. So if you do want to wear shorts, if you have got a preference of shorts, there is something called a gaiter. Now, we sell them on the PH Journal store. So if you guys would like some, I can ship them to any one of your safari companies that you are coming out and hunting with. It's a really neat little gaiter that goes around the ankle side of things. It goes up your shin. You put your boots and socks on, and then you pull it down so that it covers your boot nice and easy. So the sticks, the twigs, the grass, and all that sort of stuff can't get inside your boot, which is a massive tick in the right box, because we don't want anything to obstruct or make us uncomfortable when we're walking and stalking. I don't need to tell you guys this. You guys are hunters. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But the weather is hot. It does get a little bit unbearable. It does get a little bit sticky. So if you do want to hunt in shorts, by all means, I hunt in shorts. I use gaiters and my little paraffin spray. So yeah, that's just a tip there, or tip and trick. What sort of camos to bring out? Well, guys, anything of your preference. I've learned so much about camo. If you guys do want to find out more, feature. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I've learned so much about camo. There's some really cool camos out there. I've hunted in Sitka, Kuyu, Treason. There's a bunch of different brands. What works well for me is not the harsh cotton pants, because I'm quite a big guy and my thighs tend to cause a bit of friction. So I start bonfires down there, and I tend to chafe through the cotton stuff. And by the end of the day, I'm quite sore because I've chafed in places that's uncomfortable. But what I have found is utilizing the now stretch pants from like Sitka or Kuyu. Not only do they really last and can take a beating, they also help with the friction, especially when you're walking. So I get him back to camp and lodge, and I'm much more comfortable at night, and then be able to carry on for like a 7 or 10 day safari non-stop. So yes, the fabric side of stuff does tend to wear and get uncomfortable, but what I have found is that a good quality product doesn't do that. So yeah, keep that in mind. When you on your upper body, wear stuff like quick drying, like quick drying cotton, or materials like this is polyester. It's 93% polyester and 5% synthetic fibers. Which the reason why we went for this was we wanted the drying process of your sweat to be quicker, and then obviously the UV protection from the sun. So this is our base layer range. So we will normally wear this under like a windbreaker or something, just to take the chill out, and then when it starts getting warm, we'll take the windbreaker off. But then this will need to dry as quickly as possible, because walking around in a wet shirt is going to be extremely uncomfortable. So just to highlight everything yet again, 2 to 3 pairs of pants and shorts, 1 warm layer of like a fleece or soft shell jacket, 1 windbreaker, 2 trousers. When I say trousers doesn't sound right to me. Is it trousers? It's definitely not jeans, and it's long hunting pants or shorts. A nice hat, a proper hunting safari hat, like those brim hats, or a nice peak that covers your head nicely, and a buff or a neck gaiter, something that just keeps, either in the winter times it keeps your neck warm, or during the sunny periods you can keep your neck out of the sun. So that's it. Okay, I am going to do a podcast on this. I think it's become a more talked about topic over recently, and I've realized how important it has become in my gear bag, and that's your footwear. Guys, you need 2 pairs of boots. I know there's some people out there that say you only need 1. You definitely need 2 pairs of boots, and here's the reason why. If you bring out 1 pair of boots, there's so many different things that can happen. It might not always happen, but it will, during the course of your hunt, will happen. Your boots are going to get wet. They are going to get uncomfortable. They are going to get dirty. They are going to have twigs and stuff falling inside of them. It is always advisable to bring 2 pairs of really comfortable boots that you have hunted in before. If not hunted in, you have walked them in before. Don't arrive in South Africa and you've got a brand spanking pair of new boots and you're going to go out there and hunt on a 10-day safari. I can tell you right now, your PH is going to curse you, your outfit is going to curse you, you're going to curse yourself. Even the Jack Russell that's driving on the back of your professional hunter's bakkie is going to curse you. Your trackers are going to look at you funny, but they also might know that you're going to get so hurtful or sick and tired of those new boots that you're just going to pass them off to them at the end of the safari. So don't bring new boots, please, guys. I can't stress this enough. So many times, so many times I've seen it time and time again. Guys bring these fancy new boots out. They arrive on the shores of South Africa and they regret every decision they ever made. Boots are your number, if not top 3 number most important essential items for your gear bag. And complementing your boots is a good pair of socks. Now, I've seen guys come out and have all these fancy different socks. A good pair of mohair socks or hiking socks. I know there's a couple of great brands in South Africa that do really nice hunting socks. So bring those out. Bring as many as you can, 4 or 5 pairs, because what normally might happen is my feet sweat. So at lunchtime, I'm always changing my socks out because you've walked. And with that friction inside your feet, you don't want it to carry on, and then you start getting bunions and all that sort of stuff. So just a good pair of socks and 2 really good pairs of boots. So I'll go as far as this: 1 pair of ragged, abusive boots that can take an absolute beating, and 1 really, really comfortable pair. I don't even care if you want to hunt in hay dudes, as long as you understand that 1 pair needs to be extremely comfortable, because there might be some mornings that are long on the feet, and some afternoons might be a little bit lower intensity. You might be going out to sit over a watering hole or sit over a land or something like that, and it's just nice to have a nice pair of comfortable boots on that just gives your feet a little bit of break, or that break. And then of course let's not forget the gaiters. But so coming back to the boots part, a lot of guys, and it's become an image thing, there are a lot of really good safari boot companies out in Africa and South Africa. And a lot of guys want to purchase them and then send them to their safari company and then arrive and wear them. What I would really like to recommend, and I had this done when I was in the States, Sheep Feet. It's a company who goes there and they mold your foot. You push it down in this like weird foam density stuff, and they mold a sole for your foot. Get that done if that's what you want to do, and if you still believe that you can break these boots in on one safari. So get that done, come out, put them in, and I promise you now, you won't regret it. They are a little bit pricey, but worth every cent in the long run. I'm a guy that's had more than 20 odd operations on both of my knees, so when it comes to footwear, it's the most important part of the clothing aspect of my hunting bag. So yeah, one of the big questions, I've got an MB on my notes. One of the big questions is ankle support. So ankle support is incredibly important. So I just want to highlight a few things here, and I am going to do a YouTube episode on boots yet again. I have got one out. I will put it right here. That's what the thumbnail looks like. Yeah, or no, you know what? I'll put it down in the description below. So go ahead and watch that episode. It is a very, very old episode, but I am going to be releasing a new one. Okay, so for softer sands, Kalahari, that sort of stuff, we have found, and I'm speaking from personal experience now, I can't talk for everyone in the hunting industry, but we have found that a more solid, flat sole, a nice hard rubbery sole for the Kalahari sand is a lot better than having a more flexible hiking type of boot. And the reason for that is that it just gives your legs a little bit of stability when walking through that soft sand, and it doesn't actually break your calves as much as what you would anticipate. So that's a very important one to keep in mind. But when you're hunting here in the Eastern Cape, especially if you're doing a lot of kudu hunting, mountain rhebuck, fall rhebuck, gamsbuck in this area, Barbary sheep, things that are mountain dwelling, eland, we tend to prefer the more hiking boot. They don't last as long, but I personally prefer the more hiking boot. Why? Because it gives me a little bit more ankle support, especially on those rolling boulders. So if those boulders roll, at least my ankle, I know, is fully equipped or supported to be able to take that sudden roll of events. So yeah, for me, guys, that's some important points to take from there. I've seen guys hunting snake boots. I've seen guys hunting cowboy boots. Just bring out your boots of preference, but just make sure you've done your homework and you've walked them in before. So yeah. Okay, of course, getting to the back end now of the gear bag. Hygiene, your basics: toothbrush, wet wipes is always a nice little handy essential, but not a must. Of course, your basic toiletry essentials. On your medical side of things, your professional hunter should be equipped with a fully first aid kit inside his bucky, and he should have his first aid certificate, so you should know how to handle any sort of emergencies take. But if you do have any sort of medication like diabetes medication, or there's a specific headache tablet that you prefer taking, bring that along. Because like I said, sometimes our South African stuff isn't as, am I allowed to say it, like, but it isn't as good as what the Americans can get. So yeah, bring that along. Cool. And then what have I done here now? Apologies guys, slight little mishap here. Okay, yeah, we're back. So what I have done, if you are coming out and you are wanting to build a little bit of content or a little bit of content, but something for the memory bank and for the family to enjoy on social media, and you don't feel like going through the effort, or you don't really want to take the cost of hiring a camera crew, some cool tips. I would highly recommend you bring a GoPro with you. A GoPro is very, very handy. It's durable. The batteries last long. You can film some really epic footage on that. So bring a GoPro with you. Otherwise, bring a small handheld vlogging camera. I find that works best when you're out in the bush, and if you want to hand it off to your PH or your tracker, you're not handing them a fancy couple of $1,000 camera to handle while you pull in the trigger. Power banks, always. I'm yet to see. Maybe in my early days I never saw one, but recently it's become an everyday thing. Power banks. People need to keep in mind that South Africa, not right now, so touch wood, and we haven't had it for ages, but South Africa does have a thing called load shedding. So, and they can spring it on you anytime. So bring a power bank that will just keep your electronics charged, and that way you can always be in contact with home. I recently just installed a Wi-Fi system into my actual rig, my pickup, and I'm hoping our good friend old Elon Musk gets Starlink over here as soon as possible, so that your guys' connection can be kind of simultaneously and instantly. A torch is always a good one. I know a couple of lodges do supply torches to the guests to get to and from their chalets to the lodge, but it's always nice just to have a headlamp torch or something like that just stuffed in your backpack on your way in. Chargers, so make sure you guys have got the correct plug adapters. And then guys, I'm gonna do this is one episode on its own: paperwork and small essential items that we need to remember as far as passport copies, rifle permits, travel insurance, and some really, really basic items on that. We'll do a full podcast on that, but just make sure that you guys are speaking to your outfitter as far as bringing your rifles in. Make sure that your passports are up to date, no less than 6 months before expiring. So yeah, just keep those things in the back of your mind. That's the end of the list I've got here. Anyway, cool. So guys, that's pretty much it. I've got a bunch of questions here that I thought I'd answer. There were questions about what can they bring for trackers and all that sort of stuff. I'll get into another podcast. I've done 2 episodes now of tipping and tipping correctly. I'll do another episode of that soon. So if you guys do want to bring out something small for the trackers and stuff, at least you know what to expect. And then I would like to know any of your guys' packing questions. If you guys have got any questions for me, please, on YouTube, on my social media platforms, hit me up. I'll gladly answer as many questions as I possibly can. One of the cool things was prepping for this, what sort of sunblock do you guys need to bring over? Guys, I think sunblock is just a standard. I thought it was, until there are guys that have got sensitive skins and stuff. So if you have got a sunblock that you prefer, or that is your preference, or recommended to you, very important, recommended to you from a doctor, by all means, please bring that along with you as well. Make sure that you are fully equipped for any uncomfortable situations you might be in. Last question that came to mind was access. Most of the lodges have got access to Wi-Fi, and you will be able to communicate with your loved ones, friends and family from that point. If not, if you're doing a lot of traveling, like a lot of my guests are going to be doing this year, I highly recommend that you get yourself an eSIM. There's a couple of really good apps out there that you guys can utilize and bring on an eSIM on this side. Other than that, that's pretty much it. We will cover a lot more of this in depth as we go along. There's a lot of questions when it referred to what sort of rifles to bring for plains game hunting, what sort of rifles to bring for dangerous game hunting. I think those are separate episodes in themselves. Like I said, we're going to touch base on a nice boot episode. And then, there's various different things that we can touch just to round off the show season, so that you guys are fully equipped to ask these questions to your outfitter or your professional hunter when you are going to the shows. Jot them down. If you guys want to find out anything more about what are some of the cool questions, go and check the last episode of the podcast. There's some really cool questions that you get to ask your outfitter. Make sure that you are picking the right outfitter for you. Like always, if you have enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and drop a thumbs up. Or ask a really cool question in the comments below. Don't be shy. I'm always there to help. So, like always, guys, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We catch up with you guys soon.